guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the most disappointing reads of 2018. The first was The Witches of New York. This is by Amy McKay, and this is about two witches in New York who they run a sort of shop for teas, and they magical potions and things like that. And obelisk thing comes into town, and there are these strangers who are trying to show the world that these two women are witches, and a lot of nonsense happens, and I don't remember much about it anymore. But the reason that I didn't enjoy this much was because it felt like it was the beginning of something bigger, and it never got to that point. Like it felt like it was an underdeveloped fantasy that could be turned into a really great like sort of historical fantasy series, but it's just this one thing. The resolution happens very quickly. You don't really know the motivations of some people. Not that you always need to know the motivations of sort of villains in a book, but sometimes a little bit of context, you know, you need some context, and there wasn't any. It really could have been something really awesome, and it felt very flat and very just like meh. I haven't seen any indication that it's going to be turned into a series or anything like that, and so there's so many questions that are left unanswered. There's so many things that are just not wrapped up in any way that you think would be if it's not going to be a series. But yeah, it was disappointing. It was okay while I was reading it, but after I finished it, I was like, you know, actually I was expecting a whole lot more from that, and I didn't get it. Number 2 was Murder at the Vicarage. This is the first Miss Marple from Agatha Christie, and I didn't enjoy this because it was, and this you'll hear me say this a lot, this is the reason why I didn't like most of these, is that it wasn't in any way memorable. And I kind of knew this going in, but it sucks anyway. And there's Miss Marple is like barely in the story at all, so it's not really the first Miss Marple because she's not really in it all that much. The mystery isn't intriguing, especially when you've read things like And Then There Are None or Murder on the Orient Express. Those were intriguing, and you really wanted to know what happened, and there's like these twists and turns, and kind of none of that happened. I don't remember who did, I don't remember who died. So yeah, that was only meh. I want to keep it because I want to collect all of Agatha Christie's works, but it was disappointing. Number 3 is Dr. Mooters Marvels, and this is by Kristen O'Keefe Aptowitz, and this is about Dr. Mooter, who there is still his home, or at least his possessions have been turned into a museum in Philadelphia, which you can go visit now. But he kind of revolutionized plastic surgery and the way in which surgery was done, the way that you teach medicine and surgery. But the thing that I didn't really like about this is that admittedly, in the book, there isn't a whole lot about him. He didn't keep diaries. No one around him really kept any diaries. So everything that she kind of put together to write this book is by these like third kind of level sources. But yet in her writing, she writes it as like, oh, I'm sure this is what happened. Like, oh, he saw this and he smiled because he was so happy because this is what it meant for his career. Like, you know, no, you can't say we know almost nothing about this guy and then simultaneously try to write this nonfiction book as if it was this like, as if it's this fictionalized telling of this guy's life, because that's kind of what you're doing when you're inserting emotions and facial expressions into a person that you don't know, and in situations that you're not actually sure happened the way that you're saying they happened. So I almost wish you hadn't written this book at all, because there isn't all of that much there. So yeah. Next is one that I might have a few people be upset about, and that is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I just didn't connect with the characters. I thought the friendship was toxic, and it always felt like something was gonna happen, and Ferrante kept you on the edge of your seat, kind of like, okay, something's gonna happen, something's gonna happen, something's gonna happen, and then kind of nothing really does, at least in my opinion. And so I just didn't like it as much as I was really hoping to, and so yeah. Then is Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore. This is a sort of mystery that happened because of someone is found dead at the bookstore, and so it becomes into this mystery of what happened and who is this person really. And it was just boring, and the characters were boring, and everything felt very convenient, and there was just, it really, I never got that like really great feeling that I get when when I'm reading something, like when I'm reading a book about books or a book about bookstores and things like that. That wasn't there. It really, I don't think it was for me at all. Number 6 is Orlando by Virginia Woolf. I appreciated everything that she was trying, that everything that she said in her commentary on gender. That part was really great, but the rest of it, I was just like, what am I reading? It's probably just a book that I need to reread at a later date, but I thought about DNFing it a lot, and I got through because I was doing a buddy read, but both of us were like, meh. Number 7 is Carrie by Stephen King. I sort of knew going into this one that it wasn't going to be great. I think it's his first that he wrote, and it's not pretty, and his writing on young girls' bodies is disturbing, and it wasn't scary. A lot of sort of info dumps, and yeah, it was only okay. Then I have a few that I DNF'd. One was The Readers of Broken Wheel recommend, and this one it felt so stereotypical, like all of these horrible stereotypes about people from the South was what all of these characters were, and that was really annoying. And then there is this foreigner that comes into town to do like to stay with a pen pal that she had in this town, only to come to the town and find out that the pen pal has died, but she's gonna stay there anyway because that was her plan in the first place. And all of these people are like, oh my gosh, who is this new person coming into our tiny ass town? Let's learn everything about her and love her dearly, and let's all of a sudden forget that there are all of these immigration laws because we want her to stay. And immediately I was like, no fucking way would this happen if this was a person of color. It's like, it's translated from like the Swedish or something, so I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do that when it's like a brown person. All right. So I DNF'd it at like 75%. I was like, nah, this is just not for me. Number 2 is Gabi, A Girl in Pieces. I think that's by Meg Medina. I went into this because like, oh cool, Latinx YA with a fat protagonist, but I stopped like 20 pages in because it's this type of fat protagonist where it's like everything is about food, and it's like you're kind of being bashed over the head that she's fat, and it's not like she's just a character who happens to be fat. It's like, no, her entire being is her fatness. And she said things like, I stopped eating a Twinkie, or I stopped eating my chocolate to come here, so whatever you're gonna tell me better be really important. And I'm like, what? No. Number 3 was Through the Grinder, which is a cozy murder mystery. The first one was okay, but the second one I had to stop because the fucking main character kept doing this thing where I don't understand why the author was doing this, because the majority of people who read cozy murder mysteries are like older white women. So, like, who are you trying to appeal to when your main character constantly refers to her own body in like very sexualized ways? And she looks at herself in the mirror and she's like, oh my gosh, my 34 double C's are bursting out of my dress. And I'm like, I have never looked at myself in the mirror and like thought about my breasts in my breast size. Why? I mean, just say she has big boobs. But like, yeah, and it was like things like that constantly about her body, and I'm just, why? What's the point? Like, okay, whatever. So I just stopped. And then number 4 was Murder is Binding, which is another cozy murder mystery, and that was because the characters were really boring and they said the R word, and that to me is just an automatic DNF. No. It's a cozy murder mystery. There are millions out there. I can do without one that has the word in it. So those were my most disappointing reads of 2018 and my 2018 DNFs. Let me know if you have read any of these and enjoyed these, and why. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you guys very much.